Welcome to the Coastal Kitchen. Hi, I'm Karen Mashers, and today we have a passion for pickling. I was at the market and saw my friend Kelly Holden and his wife Barbara, and I started talking about pickles. And they were kind enough to give me the recipes that their mothers have been making for years. So today we're going to make some wonderful bread and butter pickles, and that recipe is from Minnie Greer. And we're going to be making some oyster pickles. So when we go to our oyster roast, we'll have these wonderful spicy pickles. Next, I'm going to be making my pickled beets. The recipe came from England, and I love my beets, and so does everybody in my family. Then we're going to pickled onions. So get ready. Let's get started. I have already cut up some cucumbers, some onion, and green pepper. Now, you want to make sure that when you make pickles, you use lovely, fresh pickling cucumbers. They're firm, and you want to cut the ends off. And a good thing to try to do is on pickles, just taste the end of it when you cut it off and make sure it's not bitter, because bitter pickles aren't very nice. So slice them up. And pickles are a funny thing. I like my pickles about 1/4 of an inch thick. You can see, you can make them just the way you like them. You can make them thinner, you can make them a little bit thicker. Okay, let's get this last little bit done. Once you have your cucumbers all sliced and ready to go, then it's time for onion. And you can use any type of onion you like. I like the sweeter onion, but you can use savory onions. Just give it a good peel here. And what I like to do is just slice it nice and thin. Now just remember, these onions are going to be pickled as well, and they add such a great flavor that I like the onions as well as I like the pickles. Get them separated and throw those on. You're going to need about 3 onions for the full recipe. I'm making half a recipe today because I don't need quite as many pickles as this makes. So let's keep right on rocking. I'm going to put some pepper, green pepper, and you want to use about a full pepper, large, sliced up, seeds out. All right, now it's time to get my great big pan. And I'm going to dump all of these right in. I want the pickles to be able to soak in a salt brine. And what I'm going to do is take about 1/3 of a cup of salt, and I'm using kosher salt on this. And I'm going to put about 4 cups of ice on top of that. Okay, just get that right over the top. And this is going to sit for about 3 hours. Now, the one thing this is going to do is flavor the cucumbers with the salt and bring the onion flavor into it also. So we're just going to let this sit for about 3 hours. I think I can go do some laundry in the meantime. These have been sitting for 3 hours. And in the meantime, what I've done is I have boiled my jars. They need to boil for about 10 minutes to sterilize them. And then I put them in a 200-degree oven along with the lids so they stay warm while I'm preparing my pickles to go in them, because we want to keep them nice and sterile. Okay, I covered my cucumbers with some plastic wrap, and now it's time to drain them. So I've got a great big colander here, and I've got clean hands, and we're just going to put these right in. And make sure you get all the bits and pieces. Okay. Nice spray of cold water because we want all of the salt to come off the pickles, because what's been absorbed is all it needs. And if you see any big ice cubes left, just pull them out. All right, that looks good. Now let's drain them. I'm going to sit this right here because we've got to make our pickling brine. So I'm going to turn this big pot on, and I'm going to put in some vinegar. And I'm using white vinegar. It has about a 5% acidity. And I'm going to put in my sugar. This is 4.5 cups of sugar. Let me grab this because I want to stir it around and start the process of the sugar melting. Okay. All right, now, while that's starting to melt, I'm going to use the pickling spices that I always use in pickles, and it just happens to be in this recipe too. Turmeric, and it's an Indian spice. It's got a little bit of a bitter flavor, but it makes the pickles the right color. Just give it a stir. Celery seed. And mustard seed. And we're just going to let this come to a lovely boil. All right, this is boiling beautifully. I'm going to turn it down on low, and I'm going to add my cucumbers. So let's just put those in. And now we're going to stir around. We're going to bring it back up to a soft rolling boil. Just a soft rolling boil. And let it set for 10 minutes. These smell wonderful. I love pickles, and I like them on anything. And the thing about this pickle is it's great on a hamburger or by itself. Doesn't matter. Wonderful addition to any meal. Okay, let's get that turned off. It's been 10 minutes. I've got to get a couple jars out of the oven. And they will be hot, so just be careful. Let me get the lids out too. And I've got my lids here, so let's put those right there ready to go. And we're going to bring this up as close as you can bring it, and you want to fill little at a time. And I always put a little bit of parchment paper underneath because it makes it a whole lot easier to clean. Let's get that last little bit in. Now, this is something that you want to do. Make sure, if you're making pickles, that you have a wooden skewer. You can use anything that does not have bacteria. You want the air bubbles out so the pickles will all be covered. Just poke down the sides. And you want to leave about a 1/2 inch from the top. And you might even want to just give them a little, see if they'll settle down just a little more. And fill them up with your brine. And now, before you get ready to seal, I always take a paper towel and get it wet. And I'm going to clean the rim because I don't want any of that sticky residue on the top of the jar. Just be careful not to get in the jar. Remember, they are hot, and that's the way that you want them. All right, now it's time for my lids, and I'm going to pick up my lid and place it right on the jar. I'm going to tighten this up, and what I'm going to do is just give it a nice turn like this. You don't want to tighten it up any more than that. Okay, so let's get these other two done. Now, it's a lovely little tool. We've got our water bath boiling right now, and I am going to put these in the water bath for about 10 minutes, completely covered. And when we take them out, the seal should pop. All right, let's turn this off real fast. We've got 10 minutes in, and take our pickles out. Just get a little bit of that water off, and I'm going to put them on this tray right here. Look wonderful. Okay, we're going to leave these for 24 hours undisturbed. So I put them on a tray so I could move them off on the other side of the counter. We're going to take a short break. I'm going to clean up and have a word from our sponsors. See you in a few.
Most people couldn't fit 200 local farms on their table. Well, that's where we come in. For the very best of everything local, Lowe's Foods.
Welcome back. I am getting ready to make my Granny Clarkson's spiced pickled beets. Now, these are sweet beets, and I have found some beautiful small ones. One of the keys to my grandmother's recipe is to make sure that you cut the stems about 2 inches away from the bulb, because you don't want the beets to bleed out while they are boiling, because these are going to boil probably about 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and it's depending upon the size. So I'm going to sit here and cut beets, and we're going to get them in the pot in just a minute. All right, last of the beets. Now, the one thing that you can do if you want to is save the greens that come with the beets and cook them just like you would any other greens, collards or turnips. They're really tasty. Okay, now got all the beets done, and I'm going to give them a quick rinse, nice cold water. I've already washed them one time, but you want to make sure that all the sand is gone. Okay, and we're going to put those right in our boiling pot of water. And these will cook, as I said, between 15 and 30 minutes, and then they'll be ready to peel. Okay, just give them a little push down, make sure they're all covered, and we're just going to let those boil. All right, let's do these oyster pickles. Now, the one thing I want to make sure you do know is there's no oysters in these pickles. What you actually do is you eat them at an oyster roast, or if you have any kind of oyster dinner. So I've already cut up my cucumbers here, and I'm using the pickling cucumbers just like I did before. Just cut them up into the size that you like. The difference in this pickle is we're going to put lime on it. And let me get this one cut up here real fast. Okay. what you need to do is you need to make sure you've got a big enough container like I've got, and I am going to take great big pitcher of water, and I am going to put in my lime. And this is pickling lime, and it's going to turn the water milky. And I'm just going to stir it around. All right, now I want to add a little bit more water in here because I'm going to put a total of a gallon, and I'm going to pour it right over my pickles. Now, the one thing about lime is that you actually infuse calcium into the pickle. It makes it a little bit firmer and has a nice crisp bite to it. Now, what we're going to do is cover this. Let me grab it real fast. And we are going to put this in the fridge for 24 hours. And what I usually do is I go back and shake it a couple times every couple hours. So just keep that lime going. I have another one in the fridge, so let me put this away and get the one so we can keep going with these pickles. Okay, now let's take this off. And what we're going to do is rinse them thoroughly with cold water. All right, now that we've gotten them rinsed off, let me just set them over here a second. I'm going to start with my pickling brine. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to put my vinegar in the bottom, and that's about 1 quart. And then I've got my sugar, and this is where it gets spicy. I've got whole cloves, cinnamon, celery seed, and salt. Just a little bit. Okay, we're good there. And we're going to start stirring because we want this to start melting. As soon as we get this melted, we're going to put our pickles in and let them just sit in it for about 3 hours. Then we're going to bring it to a boil. All right, this is starting right now. And we've got one more ingredient to go. This is an old-timey recipe. We're going to add about 1/3 of the bottle of green food coloring in there. Want it to really turn those pickles a Christmas green. All right, you can see that this is starting to boil, and I'm going to turn it off real quick. And I'm going to put my cucumbers in. And they are nice and firm. All right, let's give these a lovely little stir. Okay, it's time we get right back to our beets. Let's check them, see if everything's good. I think we're close to being ready, so let's pull that off. And I just want to give one beet a poke with my fork, and yes, it is ready. Okay, now this is the fun part, because you can save the beet juice if you'd like. You can use it in smoothies, you can use it in other recipes, you can make beet soup and use some of this, but I'm not saving it today. I'm going to pour it out. I'm just going to take a little and pour in my vinegar jar in case I need any more liquid. And finish pouring these out so they can start to cool. Okay, my beets have been cooling for a few minutes. I got some brand new regular kitchen gloves, and I use kitchen gloves on beets because I don't want purple hands. So use any kind of glove you want, but it's easier to peel and to cut. So I'm just going to grab one at a time, and I'm going to cut the top off. I'm going to cut the bottom off, and you can see, woo, wants to run away from me. You can see how easily it peels. And then all you have to do, and I like to cut them in quarters, I just cut down one side and down the other, and you can see what a gorgeous color they have. And that's because we kept the tips on it. So let me finish cutting up these beets and filling these bottles, and then we'll finish with our beets. All right, on the last beet here. They're nice and cool. And I've got them in my hot canning jars. Let's cut this one up. And you can see that about five pounds of beets makes 4 nice jars. Okay, get these gloves off. Let's give them a rinse, because anything you touch with beet hands turns purple, and it stays purple. Now, little bit of vinegar. We've got 2 cups of vinegar. Great thing about pickles and pickling anything is it uses just about all the same things. Some sugar, 2 cups, and I'm going to get about a cup of water. And we're going to start this boiling. Okay, let's turn this on and start stirring. We're going to bring this to a boil, nice rolling boil, and then we're going to pour this right on the top of our beets. All right, we've come to a full boil. Let's turn that off. I'm going to bring it right over here. I've got my jars ready and my canning collar there. And I'm going to take it by the ladle. Going to fill it up just about 3/4 full. Now, when I know I've got plenty of liquid left, I'll fill it up about 1/2 inch from the top. And it's ready to seal. So the beets can go right in your fridge. I don't put these back into a canning situation because they get eaten in my house a little bit quick for that. So they'll be just fine. Leave them sit for about 2 to 3 weeks before you serve them, and they will be wonderful. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back to finish our pickles and do our pickled onions.
The Coastal Kitchen would like to say thank you to our sponsors at Holden Brothers Farm Market in Charlotte for supplying the fresh produce on this week's show. Swing by their indoor market located near mile marker 10 on Highway 17 or check them out online at holdenbrothersfarmmarket.com.
Welcome back. It's time to start with our British pickled onions. Now, this is something that I grew up on, and it's a savory. It isn't sweet, but it's still pickled. We're going to take pickling onions or white boiling onions. This is what we want to use. And you can either take the skins off of them as they are right now, or you can make it easy on yourself and do what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put them in a pot of almost boiling water, let it go for about 1 minute, and we are going to peel them very easily. All right, this should be ready. I'm going to put this right in my sink. Turn that off. And I want to get these onions into an ice bath right away because I don't want them to cook. I just want the peeling to be able to come off very easily. Okay, let's see how easy these are to peel. Just cut each end off. and it slides right off. Just make sure you get the filmy skin off too. Don't want that to be in your jar. Okay, one down and all the rest of them to go. Okay, let's get this last onion done, and I'm going to put it right in the top. Okay, this is a very simple pickling process. I've got malt vinegar, and malt vinegar is the kind that you'd use on fish and chips if you were in England. It's got a great flavor. We're just going to pour 2 bottles right into this saucepan and heat it up real fast. Okay, we're just going to put this on the stove real fast, bring it to a quick boil, and in the meantime, I'm going to take peppercorns. And I've got tricolored peppercorns, and I'm going to take about half of a teaspoon and put right in my jar. And if you're using a big jar, you might want to do this in thirds. You can pack a third of the onions in and put some peppercorns in. Now, this is a nice little hot taste when you actually bite into it. It's a condiment to a meal, which is wonderful. We're going to put coriander seeds in there, and I'm going to put about a third of a tablespoon in each one. And just a pinch of salt. All right, let's check and see. Oh, the vinegar is boiling, so let's turn that off. Now, the one thing that you can do is, if you don't have quite enough vinegar, we can add some boiling water to it too. So what I'm going to do is start with about halfway. And this is something that doesn't get into the canner either. We're going to put just a little bit of boiling water on the top. I want to just top it off. It also mellows it out a little bit too, because these can be very pungent. All right. One skewer. Let's get the air bubbles out. And these will go into the fridge after they cool down. Just want to make sure we've got the lids on nice and tight. One more here. Okay, all nice and tight. We're going to go over and take a look at our pickles here, because these should be ready to go. Now, I know that these are Kelly Holden's favorite pickles. His mama, Minnie, made them, and he told me that there's nothing better with oysters. So when we have our oyster roast, these pickles are coming with me. Okay, let's just bring this over here, and I'm going to follow the same procedure as we did with the bread and butter pickles. I'm going to finish putting all this into jars. We're going to have a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back to take a look at all the wonderful things we did today.
Most people couldn't fit 200 local farms on their table. Well, that's where we come in. For the very best of everything local, Lowe's Foods.
What a great day. I hope you have the same passion for pickling that I do. We've got pickled beets, we've got pickled onions, oyster pickles, and bread and butter. I'd like to thank Kelly and Barbara Holden for sharing their recipes. I'd like to thank my grandmother for teaching me the art of cooking. And I'd like to thank you for joining us for this show. If you'd like to find these recipes, go to Facebook and search for the Coastal Kitchen. It's all right there. See you next time.